Welcome into Trust the Process Live. It's Mondays. We're back. There's a lot to talk about. It's the dog days, but still somehow sports keep on giving, and that's what gives us life. So I'm your host here with James Hyden. That's my guy, Josh Safran over there. It's just the order I go in. I know we tried to mix it up last time, but it's just the order I go in. I'm sorry. How you doing, Josh?
Man, I'm doing good. I mean, is it the dog days when your team isn't like 20 games out of first? I feel like obviously it is the dog days, but not feeling as dog as they used to be the last few years. Feeling pretty good.
That's fair. The man of many digits, Max Coolish, and it's 0 digits because the Phillies are now a wild card team. The digits were the game's out. He is now 0 digits. Max Coolish, how are you?
I'm good. I'm back. It's been a hell of a long 2 weeks, but we're actually it's been 3 weeks since I've been here. But it was a hell of a long 2 weeks for me personally. If you know, you know. If not, had some flooding issues in the old property. Being a homeowner might be a scam, but renting's even bigger. So, take your punches on the mouth and we move on. But yeah, Josh said it perfectly. Like I was out at lunch yesterday and the Phillies came on at 2:15 and I was keeping up with them. Like 2:15 on a Sunday, like 2 years ago, whatever. I mean, they ended up losing, which sucked after they had been so dominant, frankly, throughout this Cardinals series. But it's a change of pace. Like usually these are the true dog days of summer, and baseball is really the only thing that can ever save that.
It's funny you say the old property as if it's not a new build and you're not the first owner. And you've only
it was a freak accident. It had nothing to do with the property, but if you want to talk about old, the city water main was from 1893. There's your fun fact for the day.
That does not surprise me in the least. So what? Let's get into talking about this. The Phillies, there's not much to talk about in terms of they go for the series win, back-to-back series wins against the Cardinals tonight. The game 4 of that series against the Cardinals. We'll see what happens. It's a 7:15 first pitch. Oh man, we don't really want to touch on the All-Star game too much. It's just Schwarber and Harper. There's not much meat on the bone there. Harper obviously won't play in the game. He's made an announcement the other day that he's actually not even traveling to Los Angeles. So it's going to be Schwarber out there representing the Philadelphia Phillies. There's some notable snubs.
Deservedly so.
Yeah, exactly. There's some notable snubs there, most notably Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. Whatever. I don't really feel like debating All-Star game snubs here when it does not matter. And honestly, I'd rather have them not pitch in the game. So instead, we're going to focus on...
Really quick.
Yes.
Really quick. Can I just pitch my hashtag Justice for Zach campaign that I launched on our Twitter at TTPL Philly earlier?
Yeah, I'd love to hear this.
So Luis Castillo is a starter for the Cincinnati Reds. Okay, that's the first thing we want to talk about here. The Reds, who are, I think, about 18 games under 500, maybe somewhere around there. I don't know off the top of my head. Their best pitcher, Luis Castillo, this is how he compares to the Phillies, who are in a wild card spot. Their best pitcher, Zach Wheeler. Castillo, 2.92 ERA to 2.46 for Wheeler, and a couple other important ones because I don't want to list all 7 of them here. WHIP is 1.1 for Castillo to 1.05 for Wheeler. Ks per 9.4 Castillo to 9.9 for Wheeler. And the most important statistic here, which is even more impressive, innings pitched, Castillo 71, Wheeler 95, which does give your merit to your point that maybe it is better, for the rest and everything. But when Wheeler outperforms a guy who is named to the All-Star game in ERA, FIP, WHIP, batters walked per 9, strikeouts per 9, WAR, and innings pitched, it's hard to call that anything but a misjustice. And it's not even like this guy is running on name value on like a good team or anything.
Well, all it is every team. All it is every team has to be represented. You know what I mean? So it's like the
send Joey Votto. Give Joey Votto Bryce Harper.
No, seriously.
Like figure it out.
Joey Votto's back from rehab in AAA.
Figure it out. I don't care. I hate that joke. I honestly I forgot that was even a rule because I think it's so dumb.
I knew you did.
I totally forgot that's a rule and it's so stupid. I hate that the NHL does it too. All-Star games are not participating trophies. I get that every team, it's nice to see your guy there, but All-Star games are All-Star games. Like if your team stinks so bad that nobody is at an All-Star level, then they shouldn't be an All-Star. And that should be like, a signal to the franchise that you need to find better players, whether through, the draft, trades or whichever way.
No, it felt like when the DH and the extra innings rule came in, it was time to do away with the every team gets an All-Star.
I totally forgot about that, and I hate it. It's so dumb. It's such an injustice.
Tradition, Max.
It's not as bad as it is with
Great
NFL or
American
NBA where awards like this are so heavily tied into contract value. But there's no way that a guy putting up that much significantly better numbers shouldn't be, he deserves to be recognized for his performance. It's a participation trophy for Castillo.
This is bothering you, man.
It really is. It should. Though. You know what you did though? You did a very, very awesome segue because Luis Castillo is one of the most popular trade bait names being floated out on the market. It's him.
Is he? Oh, perfect. If we trade for him, then he deserves the All-Star nod by all accounts.
He's going to command quite a haul. So it's him, Montes of the A's. The Orioles have a couple of relievers that everybody wants. So it's
Are we sure the Orioles are going to be sellers? They've been kind of feisty.
They've won 8 straight ball games. That still doesn't bring them within 10 games of the.
Yeah, I guess the Yankees and the Red Sox are probably very far ahead of them.
Even the Rays and the Blue Jays are both way far ahead as well. Like it's just the whole division is just so far separated. It's like
is a slaughterhouse. Okay.
Yeah, why not sell?
As you were.
So Max did a Max has a very, very correct gripe. All right, I'm not taking anything away from that. But our first question here is going to talk about this trade deadline because Dombrowski sees this where the Phillies are now a wild card team. He sees this and he has to go do what he does. He's famously the guy who traded away Randy Johnson so to win a World Series. So that's what nobody really talks about is he traded away Randy Johnson, but also won a World Series. So this is one of those moves where Dombrowski, let's see what you can do. There's still a little hole in the bullpen that could be filled, although the bullpen's been performing very well lately. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do at this trade deadline with Zach Eflin still out with knee soreness? And boys, I got to ask you, got to get rid of this banner first. Who's your most tradable piece? You can go on the major league roster. You can go all the way down to rookie ball, even though the draft hasn't taken place. Like you can pick anybody in this Phillies system. And I'm going to start off with some fodder, and I'm not going to give my reason why unless you provoke me to.
Okay.
It's JT Realmuto.
I would like to provoke.
Okay. Provoke me then.
Oh, I'm just that's the best I got. I would like to provoke you, but I don't know how to do so.
Tanners, listen, man, I'm all in on that. I just don't think you find a suitor. Like who is going to sign up for that? You know what I mean? Like who's going to sign up for JT Realmuto in that contract realistically? Do you have a suitor?
I'm sure if I sat here long enough, I could think about it. The Mariners come to mind. They don't have really a real backstop. I guess. If Trevino cools off, maybe the Yankees. There's always been that rumor dangling out there. Vasquez is not an offensive catcher in Boston.
The Yankees I could see, but Trevino's an all-star himself. You know what I mean? It's just, look, I'm with you. I would love to get JT Realmuto off this team. I just don't think I think it's just such an albatross of a contract. I don't think you have anyone who would take that on.
Is it though? Like the AAV is not bad. It's just like the numbers are declining. He's very clearly not the same defensive catcher he was. Like he's very clearly not the best catcher in baseball anymore.
But everyone knows that. You know what I mean? Like that's my problem. Is everyone does know like the jig is up.
He's still a really good defensive catcher too.
He's still all right. I mean, but the Yankees
unquestionably
just bought high or bought low on Josh Donaldson. So like the Yankees are a team that you could sell post-production on. You know what I mean? They would constantly buy for past production.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's true. It somehow works out for them a la Matt Carpenter right now. But here the thing with that banners is and I like it, but isn't it like if you're trading JT Realmuto, and I know this isn't what you're saying, but like a team that does trade JT is typically a team that would be selling. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Who would buy JT?
No, the team that's trading away JT. It's like I know this is not what you're saying, but it just feels weird. Like
it would come across as the Phillies are sellers if they were to include
it would be
JT
almost like making the money match in the NBA. So like you're over the tax, so you're going to get under the tax by getting rid of JT. So to either get pieces that make up the sum of the same contract, so like a back end starting pitcher, middle of the rotation starting pitcher. Because I'm so done with Zach Eflin, dude. Like I like what he brings. But it's time to admit it. The dude has chronic knee issues. I'm sorry. You can't get around that. I wish you could.
Which is weird for a pitcher, too. You know what I mean? Like, you don't see like knee injury is not what you typically expect to see when a pitcher is out consistently.
And I'd wait it out with him if he was a 3 ERA guy. Like, we're getting excited for a 4.25, which like is fine, but not for all the headaches.
Yeah, and I like Suarez as much as the next guy, but if you can give me a 3 or a 4 starter along with a bullpen arm and a better guy off the bench, I'm fine with that. Really, I really am. Like a super utility guy, like a Kike Hernandez, like adding that type of bench.
Like a Matt Vierling.
Oh, like, well, hey, I love me some Matty V, but that kind of bench back, because Mickey Moniak is one of your first bats off the bench. You know what I mean? Yeah. And hey, why not Mick? Friend of the show, Jack Fritz, quote unquote. The Why Not Mick campaign is alive and well, but may not be for much longer. So I mean, Max, do you have a different Josh? Did you tell me? Are you agreeing with me, or do you have another trade chip, Max or Josh?
Go ahead, Josh, if you have something.
All right, I got one. I got a blockbuster one too. Banners, kind of the same thought process, but less number and more production. For me, it's obvious, and it's Rhys Hoskins.
Yeah, that's why he's on the graphic. I knew you were going to say it.
I got Rhys Hoskins dealing out, and you know, I've always been a roller coaster. Rhys has always been a roller coaster, but for me, it's a couple things. One, you got guys who can replace him, both in the form of Derek Hall and in Alec Boehm. Those guys have more longer team control, and I think these guys can do just about everything that Rhys Hoskins does. And I take both of them, including Boehm, to field at first base over Rhys Hoskins. He's just really not a good first baseman as a fielder. And I'm all in on Derek Hall. The second thing with Rhys Hoskins is, why don't we just harken right back to the Reds, Max? Joey Votto's what, 38? How about a little Rhys Hoskins to the Reds for Luis Castillo? And look, that's just one of many, but I do think there's a bunch of teams that would want Rhys Hoskins, a bunch of middling teams that would like a guy who has power, doesn't get paid that much, and is under team control for the next couple of years. I'm looking at the Mariners. I'm looking at the Orioles.
Well, that's the thing with Rhys, though. He's coming up on needing a contract after this year.
But he still has one more year after this year, right?
Is next year the arbitration year?
Yeah. He's got one more year where he can't go into free agency at least. So I'm looking at teams that aren't necessarily like full-on sellers, but I'm looking for teams that are kind of in purgatory where, like, you know, you need a guy for next year who will produce. Because I'm not, look, boys, it comes down to this. I'm not willing to get rid of any of the talent in the farm. Like your Griff McGarry's, your Mick Abels, your O'Hoppys, your Andrew Painters, like none of those guys. This is not a World Series year. I just think you can, and I don't have anything against Rhys. I just think you got Boehm, you got Hall, and let's face it, a power hitting first baseman DH, pretty expendable. You can get a couple of those guys. For me, it's Rhys Hoskins, and aside from him, I'm having a hard time finding really anyone.
Max, who are you thinking?
I hadn't thought about Rhys Hoskins until I saw him on the graphic, and I think what Josh said makes a lot of sense. Banners, you kind of touched on this guy, but this is Josh's boy, Ranger Suarez. It just feels like he could be, I don't know. He doesn't seem like he's enough to do it on his own, but I feel like there's got to be a team out there that's like, you know, there's always guys that are top prospects that even after they show that they don't like play as top prospects like he has, there's always the people that are like, oh, he was a top prospect this year. Like I can get the most out of this guy. And I feel like that Ranger Suarez is like the only piece on the Phillies that you could get more in return for him than what he provides you currently.
Max, let me just butt in because I didn't think about this. I think the other thing with Ranger, and if you play your cards right, you can say to other teams like, yeah, we have him as a starter. Look what he did last year as a closer. You need a bullpen arm? He can do that too if you want.
He's flexible.
Right, exactly. So I do think that adds some juice to Ranger, and I got to say, that's one I hadn't thought about before. I'm all in on the Ranger trade bait now because I think, he's got an expendable arm. The problem is, what about this year? Like if I'm another GM, I'm like, I've been watching Ranger this year. He doesn't do anything for me, but you look around at the Phillies roster, who else are you going to send, man? I think the three of us and Banners, you can weigh in on this. Are we all in agreement that we're not willing to sacrifice that top tier farm talent? Like this clearly isn't the year where you no one's trading O'Hoppy, no one's trading Payne or any of that.
Yeah, definitely not Payne.
You could convince me to trade O'Hope
for what, like Benintendi or lower?
I would love Benintendi, but
that'd be nice.
But what I'm saying is, like, for me, like Benintendi's like the golden goose of like the trade deadline. Like he's like the top guy Like, I don't know where your bar would be because, like, of course there's a correct price for all of those. But like my knee jerk when looking at this trade deadline, like this isn't the year to mortgage the farm. Like let's try to stick to an expendable guy or like someone who we might have an excess of talent.
One other quick thing for the Ranger Suarez thing. What really got me on Ranger Suarez was when Banners, you kind of started talking about, how we should probably go after another starter because of Zach Eflin. So to me, like the math that I did was who's the odd man out and who has trade value. And obviously that's Ranger Suarez. But the other thing is that even if we go get another starter, who would be replaced in if Eflin comes back, I feel like he would end up as a starter over Suarez because Suarez has shown potential to pitch in the bullpen. But the bullpen has been quietly decent this year. This is easily the least frustrated I've been with the Phillies bullpen in, July 11th in 5+ years, it feels like. So
Dominguez is struggling a bit as of late. Don't look now. Jojo Romero is on a fast track back to the majors on a rehab stint. I need some of that gas, dude. Like the crushing Red Bulls off the arm. I need some of that juice.
Familia, right? Familia is the odd man out, right?
Oh my God. Get that guy out.
Probably. But my point is that Suarez, it's not like hey, we should get a starter so we can move Suarez back into the bullpen because we're having bullpen issues. I guess that's my ultimate second point that I wanted to make about Suarez.
So would you guys rather make a trade for a bat or an arm? If I told you, let's make the pitchers untouchable in the farm system. So your McGarry's who shot up rankings, obviously Abel and Painter, which it's crazy enough. Abel is probably your most touchable. That's so weird to say. You're probably most available prospect right now.
Yeah, that's a major phrasing right there.
Yeah,
I would just say an arm because I think the kids have been getting better. Obviously, not having your best player in the reigning MVP is never a good way to slice it, but on the other hand, that's the kind of thing that needed to happen for the young, the guys in the daycare, as they call them, the kids to get playing time consistently every day. Between not having your best player who's a pencil in basically every day, not being available ever, and having to give guys rest and rotate guys just in general, that's really opened the door. And I've at least for me personally, and I know obviously you guys are more baseball guys than I am, but I think it's probably fair to say that all the young guys who have gotten consistent playing time have gotten better throughout the season. A lot of them are still not bang on above average starters by any means. Most of them are still in 200 or less, but a month or two ago, most of them were hitting 140 to 160. And Alec Bowman, in my eyes, I know he's a little bit older than the other kids, but he, as of yesterday, I think he got snapped yesterday, but he's been on fire going in, over the last month or so. And he's been a big reason why the Phillies have been able to keep up winning without Bryce. So I know he's not in the daycare, but he's the oldest one of the kids, but
he's the leader of the kids.
He's the leader of the kids. Exactly. He's the Tommy Pickles of that group. So I think that I think that's why I want an arm, because we don't have anyone like that who's progressed like that as an arm. Ranger could have been that guy, but he hasn't shown me enough. As we always say, we have a really good 1-2 at the top of the rotation. You get a third person in there, and that's what you need for the playoffs. You only need 3 quality starters to make a deep playoff run. And I know we're so far away from that, but hey, man, we are in the wild card spot, halfway through the season, just over officially halfway through the season in terms of game played. That's when you're allowed to start looking at the future. This is in April, and the Phillies are 20-13. This is mid-July, and the Phillies are 4 games over 500, and they're comfortably in a wild card spot.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's 100% an arm for a very simple reason. It's you get your 2 best pure hitters back in September. If this team is able to remain over 500 and get a wild card spot without Bryce and Gene, and they're coming back, why would I add another bat? No, I'd add an arm, hope the hitting can stay close to what it's been, and you're getting your 2 best pure hitters. I mean, not power, but then Bryce and Gene in September. So yeah, absolutely get an arm.
I think I'm going to reverse my initial answer and go bat.
Why?
Because there's no true center fielder. So if I could go and
we should have put Glove as a third option, because that's I think maybe that would have been my answer.
Me personally, I think I would go try and buy low on someone like Ramon Laureano from the A's.
Oh well, no, that I like. Now, do you think Ramon Laureano would garner is there? We could get both. I'm trying to say here basically is would Ramon Laureano
the
really
package
garner
for Laureano and Montes would be huge. That's too much.
Is Montes going to get healthy?
I mean, even if he's not, teams are gonna overpay for it.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's the reality of it. So like if you can stick Laureano, like as much as I like Matt Vierling can be replaced. Even if you don't get Laureano over the long term, his production. I really like the kid. I think if we stick with him, he could be something, maybe. But if Matt Vierling is a piece in that with Logan O'Hoppe and either like Luis Garcia or like Eric Miller, who by the way is a weird selection to the futures game over someone like Andrew Painter, but like Laureano is only a couple of years removed from hitting like 270 with 20 something home runs and playing platinum glove center field. Like that's, to me, why not go buy low on someone like that and take the Braves approach last year of just hit the cover off the ball. They lost Ronald Acuna. They went out and remade the outfield with Eddie Rosario and Jorge Soler. Go out there, come back, let Bryce Harper and Gene Segura come back to a lineup that has Ramon Laureano in it to pick up some effort on the defensive side and try and get some of that bat back. And just slug. You already bought into the slugging. So just go out there and hit the freaking cover off the ball. I don't know. Am I crazy? I don't know.
No, I'm holding off. We still got we got a few more episodes before we really start pulling out the specific names and trade pieces. You know what I mean? So I'll just back off. I'm certainly not against it though. Ramon Laureano, he feels like a Josh guy. You know, only playing at 10 o'clock. You know, just on the A's, very very niche like type of player. He's not going to catch anyone's eyeballs, you know.
I mean, he's a smart man. He took the Nelson Cruz plan, which is what my college roommate told me he would always do if he got close to the majors. Just juice. Don't care if you get caught. Take the suspension and come back and play a hell of a baseball and get the big contract.
I mean, not the worst idea.
That's the Nelson Cruz plan. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I don't care about going to the Hall of Fame. I want $300 million and just like 40 home runs a season.
Chaz McCormick told you? What are you writing?
That's not Chazzy. No. I was not roommates with Chaz. He went to Millersville. Plus, he's he's actually doing pretty well. Good old Chazzy boy. That was my buddy Sean Lunetto's plan if you ever got close to the majors. But we're sticking. Are we sticking with Philly right here? We're sticking.
Oh yeah.
This is
a little bit more.
All right. One question about the struggling Philadelphia Philly, which, I mean, if he was producing like he used to, could change this whole conversation. Are we giving Nick Castellanos enough flack? And we saw the Cardinals players saging Busch Stadium before the game yesterday to try and get some of their offensive woes around. Should we be saging Nick Castellanos' locker? Should we be saging the away clubhouse tonight before
Can I start on this? That you know what I'm about to say?
You
don't need to sage the locker. You need to sage his house because it was owned by one Ben Simmons. And everyone joked when it happened, but I mean, were we really joking when we said we need to get Nick Castellanos out of that house ASAP? Like, no. Going back to the actual question, I've been seeing Castellanos get plenty of flack and deservedly. So he's been bad. He's been straight up bad at the plate, which is why you pay him. Like his famous press conference from the start of the season, like he gets paid to hit baseballs, and right now he's getting paid to just do nothing and go 0 for 4 most nights. So
tough in the field too.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's never been exceptional in the field. He's over 30. He's kind of a lumber guy. I think, personally, we're at the point where, like, the team is doing well, but I think he needs to be benched. I won't say tonight. I think the next series they play, I think he should be benched the whole series.
No, not in Toronto. They don't have anyone else.
Series. Oh, okay. We need him in Toronto.
Not Toronto. I guess Toronto's off limits, but I forgot that. I thought Toronto was for some reason later in the week.
Yeah.
After they get back from Toronto, whatever their next series is after, unless he hits himself out. Toronto, Toronto is just kind of like your hand is forced. You have to play a guy that you're paying that much money. It goes
Marlins and Cubs. Would you sit him against the Cubs? Would you have him play against the Marlins and then sit him against the Cubs?
I think you sit him against the Marlins, and if you can beat the Marlins, you sit him against the Cubs too and give him a week. Ideally, I would like to give Castellanos a week off. I don't think you can get away with it, but he is in such a crazy funk right now. He needs more than a day. That's why I think a series will do the job, but the Marlins are maybe too important. But I'll say this: if in these Toronto games he goes 1 for 13, 2 for 12, no impact again, like. You just kind of have to pull the plug at some point.
Well, I don't think you can afford to sit him. I think it's plain and simple. Like, even as a bad hitter, like with the way this team is right now, you still have to put him in the lineup. How about you
in Toronto
DH
for
him?
sure? But
How about you DH him for a full week? I thought when Bryce was getting out of the lineup, that meant you could DH Castellanos now. So how about you DH Castellanos and hit him 7th for like a whole week? Like, treat him the way he's playing,
Well,
which is not a fielder and like a 7-hole hitter.
Who's your right fielder then?
It doesn't matter. It's Vierling. Vierling can play anywhere. You know what I mean?
Who's your center fielder?
It would be Odubel, which sucks, but like this is what has to happen.
All right, immediately out on this play.
Then you're out on it. All right, like then
can Derek Hall play right field? I don't know. Maybe
I don't think so. I'm not taking my chances.
Wouldn't that be something?
But I mean, I'll just follow up with what you were saying, Digits. I mean, you say you've seen him getting flack. I don't think he's getting enough. Like when you really think about this team right now, it kind of doesn't make sense how they have a wild card. It's really their hitting numbers are pretty decent, mostly anchored by Schwarber and our guy Bryce, who is no longer playing. But like, just think about the two guys, JT and Nick, and like how much those two guys get paid and what the back of their baseball cards actually say. I was doing some deep research today, fellas, because I was like, all right, Castellanos is hitting like 250, which who cares? That's like bang average. Nobody cares about average anymore. When I think of Nick Castellanos, think of a masher, a guy who's going to smack the baseball around. I'm pretty sure he's got 8 home runs, which, I mean, it's just not good. We all know that's not good. So
he hasn't hit a home run. He's had like 1 home run in the past like 40 games.
Right. He hit 1 home run last month, and it was on the last day of the month.
Yeah, I was watching the game when he did, and I was like, "Oh my god, maybe July will be Castellanos' month."
And it was opposite.
It hasn't been.
It was opposite field too, which is weird. Like, I don't really know what to make of it. It's just weird. But I think of a guy who hits for power. Like, he led the league in triples. I know 1 year he hits a bunch of doubles. So I looked up. All right, where does Castellanos rank in slugging? He is 119th in the entire MLB in slugging at .378. A couple guys for scale that are right above him. Andrew McCutchen is .381. Alec Bohm, .383, is hitting for more power than Nick Castellanos. So I was like, all right, maybe he gets on base at least. Maybe his OPS is better. It's worse. He's 130th in OPS. And let's go back to our old friends. Alec Bohm, .688 OPS. And Kutch has a .699 OPS. Way better. The biggest surprise I found in the OPS list, Wilmer Flores, a .770 OPS. Compared to Nick Castellanos' .675, and Andrew McCutchen gets $12.5 million less than Nick Castellanos. So I say all this to say, if this team didn't have a wild card spot, Nick Castellanos, like, you wouldn't be able to turn a radio station, I don't think, without people calling for Nick Castellanos' head. He should be thanking all of his teammates because they have taken all the concentration off of how abysmal he's been playing. And Banners, I know you said it earlier. Like, that was all without saying how bad he is playing right field. Look, I'm not out on him, which is amazing. Like, I still hope within the 4 or 5 years that he plays here, he's gonna have he'll be fine, right? That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying up to this point, wow, like, get some more sage in the Ben Simmons pen.
Yeah. I still think he's going to – I really do think he's going to end the season with over 20 home runs. He's still hitting 250 on the year.
I mean, if that's the case, then you might as well lock the Phillies into a wild card spot now. If
that's my thing. I really do think that Castellanos is going to find a hot streak, and when he does, that's a very scary hot streak because since he left Detroit when he was a third baseman by trade under Dave Dombrowski, he led all of the major leagues in extra base hits up until this year. Everybody, anywhere. That includes a league with Miguel Cabrera in it, and everybody that was hot. Right. Aaron Judge, Bryce Harper, Mike Trout.
It's not just the home runs. Is you know what I mean? Like, that's the point.
It's going to come. It's weird. He feels out of sorts with a new team, which is just it's bound to happen. I didn't think it would take this long.
Yeah, but this is a guy who's bounced around. He's been on 5 teams. I want to say that's off the top.
Detroit. The Cubs. This is his 4th team.
Okay.
So from Cubs to Reds, and then he might have been somewhere else before that. But yeah, I mean, he's going to get going. It's just it's taking a little bit longer. I think he's going to run into a hot streak, and if that hot streak coincides with Bryce Harper getting back and Kyle Schwarber continuing to not hit for a high average but a ton of bombs, I mean, that seems to be around the time when Gene Segura is going to come back. This offense is going to be legitimately scary. If it's not, I mean, it's going to be very, very good. He's going to run into a hot streak, but I do think it could be a little, including myself. I'm being very soft on him, and I think I should be harder on him because he seems like a dude who can take it. I mean, he came here and his interviews are hilarious because he's just like, he doesn't want to be there. So he gives very curt answers. So like, I feel like he's a guy who can take it, and maybe that is something that he needs. I don't know. We'll see. Sage the frickin' locker room.
I think they need to just tear down that house and rebuild it from scratch.
Might as well.
Or like a normal person needs to live there, like an everyday. Cannot be an athlete.
Well, they wouldn't be tearing down a basketball hoop because there never was one. Last baseball question here, boys. Are we ruling out the NL East? Are we ruling out the? I'll make this one really quick. I'm personally ruling out the NL East. I do actually think we're going to be in a fight with the Mets for the second spot in the NL East because the way the Braves are playing, they're only a couple games off of the Mets right now. So I think we're going to be fighting with the Mets for the second seed in the NL East. Have you guys ruled out the NL East winning it?
Not totally. Literally just because I saw the Braves are playing the Mets today, and I was like, I feel like that hasn't happened a lot. So I did a little Google. Braves and Mets play each other 15 times the rest of the year. The Phillies play the Braves and the Mets combined 19 times. So just a little numbers, just a little math there. If the Braves and the Mets beat up on each other, and I've heard, I haven't really looked at the Phillies schedule. I've heard it's pretty weak in the second half.
It is the 24th hardest.
So like, yeah, I am not counting on the NL East. I am not looking at the NL East standings every day. Not ruling it out. I am not ruling it out. I think the Mets hot start and the Phillies cold start really like took it out of our brains. But I'm saying,
yeah, I mean, they were 14 and a half games back, like 30 games into the season. It felt like, or 40. I guess that's not even like mathematically possible almost.
Put it in the back.
You know what I'm saying?
Put it in the back of the mind.
Man, I haven't rooted harder for a natural disaster than Chicago at Lambeau. That's wild. Yeah. Max, are you ruling out the NL East? Are you rolling out first in this NL East, NL Beast?
I'll be honest. I haven't like ever since we had that talk, you know, like I just referenced, like when the Phillies were legitimately like 14, 15 games back, like mid-April, and the Mets were, you know, it seemed like the Mets were unstoppable. I haven't given the division a single thought since then. But after hearing Josh's numbers, that gave me a little jolt of hope. And if you look at this objectively, being 7 games back when you're 86 games, like 80, everyone's played 86 games. The Braves have played 87. Mets and Phillies have both played 86. 7 games back with half the schedule to play is like you're never out of it at that point. Like it's still mathematically probable enough where I'll buy into the fact that they do it. Well, I think that it'll actually happen. Probably not. The Braves have been the best team in baseball since May started, pretty much, which sucks. But I'm not going to rule out the NL East, but I'm certainly not counting on it.
I'm with it. Yeah, the Braves rattled off they have a 10-game winning streak when the Phillies won 8.
I think it got to 12.
Yeah, it was just funny because like
when the Phillies was going on, yes,
8-game win streak for the Phillies. The Braves are at 10. Like, what's happening? Like, this
8-game winning streak and made 0 ground.
Yeah, what the hell is happening? Let's see. This is funny, boys. So. Little pretext here. The next question is going to be an either or, and I want you to tell me which one you buy into more. So some pretext. 2 articles have come out. One article has it wasn't very well written, but one is the latest criticism of Jalen Hurts, giving you a scenario where if he throws 10 passes, 3 were picked, 4 were incompletions, 3 were sacks, and I think I did that math wrong. Whatever.
No, you did. 3 4 3 is 10. You're good.
Okay, there. Yeah. All right. So, little bit counterintuitive to what we were hearing from OTAs and the practices where the media was allowed, and then coming from a little bit north in the city that never sleeps, there's a whole drama with Zach Wilson's high school sweetheart leaving him for his previous best friend and roommate from BYU, who's now on the Commanders.
Who's also his wide receiver.
Yes. So like left him for a guy on the Commanders. And the reason she left him was because Zach Wilson was constantly sleeping with his mom's best friends. So, all right. So the first article, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown came out and like totally bashed it on
He
Twitter.
stomped all over it. He put it out like like you're playing around with fire in the woods. Like he stomped it out.
So I want to ask you guys, which article do you believe more? And I want to ask you a sub question as well. Are moms safe around Zach Wilson? The answer should be no, but I'm actually interested to hear your answer. Which article do you believe more? That Jalen Hurts actually had a horrible OTAs and there's a cover up going on down at the
NovaCare complex?
NovaCare complex.
I got you.
Jesus, my brain. There's a cover-up going on at the NovaCare complex, or Zach Wilson is just out here just taking down his mom's best friends. Like, which one?
This is easy. This is so easy for me. Have you guys ever watched any piece of media that features people who live or do their thing in Utah? Those people are out of their goddamn minds out there. Josh, there is zero doubt in my mind that Zach Wilson, pretty boy, all-state quarterback, literally grew up sculpt a child and give him the ideal life. This dude, Zach Wilson, is such a monster. He brought 2 college cheerleaders to his high school senior prom. 2. My man had 2 college cheerleaders around the waist at his high school senior year prom. That man has the dog in him. There is no doubt in my mind. There's zero doubt in my mind that he was taking down some of his mom's friends. None. Case closed. This Jalen Hurts article is so poorly put together and written, and it's weird because the 2 guys who it's focused on, D Gunn and Barrett Brooks, are 1.5, very credible media members in my opinion. I won't say who's who. Figure it out on your own. So it was kind of weird to me reading all that, but there's no holes in the Zach Wilson story to me. Absolutely none. Not
Josh, 2 things for you.
Yeah.
Well, first comment. How much of a winner do you have to be at life for your ex-girlfriend to leave you for your best friend, that not phase you at all, and expose you as taking down your mom's best friends, and the internet takes your side?
Wow.
It was quick too. Like that.
Yep.
Everybody was like, nah,
you cannot
that
teach charm and charisma. It is a gift.
Well,
and then Josh, would you trade the man who just gave the Phillies a lead over the Cardinals by hitting a monster dong shot into Big Mac land?
Oh, really?
Into Big Mac land.
Into Big Mac.
Was it a solo dong shot?
Yes, it was. That's a triple decker though. That's a big one.
And absolutely, yeah, I would for Luis Castillo.
Attaboy, stick to your guns.
Thanks for the memory. See you around.
Yeah, no, thanks, Reese. Great guy.
Are you taking the Jalen Hurts article?
Zach Wilson. Wait, you know what? I tell you what, this Zach Wilson guy, he's quite a character, but he still went to BYU. You know what I mean? Like this isn't going to change
out there.
This is not going to change. I thought about it today. I really went back and forth. I've always been very anti-Zach Wilson, and he almost had me for a minute. I was like, wow, that's just savagery behavior right there. Maybe if you weren't so focused on 2 cheerleaders around the waist and your mom's friend, maybe you could make something of your NFL career. But I'm not
spoken like a true baseball writer, Josh. Good for you. Way to stay true to the brand.
Listen, boys, both of these stories have a very common trait. They are told in the most unreliable way ever. First, you have the jealous ex-girlfriend throwing shade. Come on, how can
definitely F tier source? That's
F tier source. But then you have D Gunn saying, "Oh, a friend told me about this thing that happened a month ago that nobody else was around for." Like, come on, man! Like, it's not like D Gunn's reporting it; it's D Gunn reporting someone told me this happened a month ago. It's just an epic soup of just unreliableness, and I ate it up all Monday. Out of the 2, which one's more probably true? Of course it's Zach Wilson. 1, I'm not going to say a bad word about Jalen Hurts. Let's address the elephant in the room.
Stick to your guns, Josh.
2, I mean, come on. Of course he did. Look at that guy's face. Just look at him in that bottom left. Now, it's not his best picture, but he's just such a pretty boy. Max, you guys touched all the points. Of course it's true. I'm going to believe it, and I'm going to choose not to believe the second one. Everyone has a bad day at practice. Zach Wilson does seem like the kind of guy who would be doing the deed with his friends, with his mom's best friend. So There you go.
According to AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts has never had a bad day at practice.
Yes,
so
no, seriously.
You
I will
know?
say
Everyone
AJ
needs
Brown,
a friend like that. Seriously,
everybody needs a hype man like AJ Brown, and I'll take that to the grave. I will. No halftime today. We're gonna get right into the second half because we got some stuff to talk about. We're gonna start with Sixers and 60, but not really because we are famously bad for sticking to time limits in the second half. So let's talk about this Harden deal.
not what we do.
Comes back, and it's announced that he is taking a $15 million pay cut over 2 years to give the Sixers. Snaps and golf claps. Snap it up for James Harden. To give the Sixers more roster flexibility, to add guys like PJ Tucker and Daniel House. So, give me your takes on it. This team is screwed, the same as last year, or legitimate hope for an improvement. And I'm going to come to you, Max, first.
Let me start off with the on the court stuff. I think this team can absolutely contend. I'm so ready to buy back in on the Sixers. I think that it was clear that Harden has the moments in him, but he couldn't do it as often as he could in Houston, which is fine. We'll say that, right? I think it was really, really unfortunate that Embiid suffered the injury when he did in the playoffs. I will stand on the fact that I think that the 2021-22 Miami Heat were about as fraudulent as a 1 seed you'll find. I'll take that to my grave, even if it got shoved back in my face. I will, I'll admit that, but I won't back down from my conviction. With that said, I could not be more impressed with James Harden here because to me, in an era, look, you guys can do the head tilt all you want.
Team guy.
In an era where guys only care about themselves and they do whatever is best for them in that cutthroat mercenary moment, James Harden decided to, for the betterment of his team, accept his role as the number 2 guy on this team and get paid like a number 2 guy on this team to help his team get better by allowing them to pick up the assets that they did not have from last year's iteration of this team. They were missing 2 guys who could be backup 3 and D guys, a little bit more defense than 3. And they brought in 2 of them. They brought in one of the guys who is quite literally the best corner 3 shooter in the league and can guard 1 through 5 with little issues. And they brought in a guy who's just a solid 3 and D bench piece. Daniel House will there will probably be one game this year where he eclipses 20 points, and we'll probably forget about it because it'll be in like November or December and an ultimately meaningless game. But he'll be good for a consistent 3-point shooter that you need to respect. He's a big body. He has good length. Like that Houston team that was Harden and Russell Westbrook, they were Harden and Chris Paul. They were about as close as anybody ever got to beating the Golden State Durant Warriors. Like they were right there. They had the 3-2 series lead. They had all the pieces in place, and it wasn't able to happen.
Couldn't hit a 3.
They couldn't hit a 3 to save their lives. But House has been a big part of all of those Houston runs. Like in the bubble, I know obviously the bubble was a little different for everybody, but in the bubble, House was incredible for the Rockets. He was literally their most consistent 3-point shooter.
40% 3-point shooter.
He's a 40% career 3-point shooter. Like having a guy who can do that and isn't a defensive liability is the exact thing the Sixers did not have this past year. So I cannot state how much I always liked James Harden as a player. He was always a spectacle and watch to Houston. If the Sixers are to win the title in the next 2 years, you're going to have a really hard time convincing me it's not largely in part to James Harden taking this deal. You really will. You genuinely will.
Agreed. So you mentioned on the court. Is there an off the court side to what you just said?
I think the off the court stuff is just the money. I didn't just phrase that great. Yeah. It's on the court, the pieces they picked up as a result of him taking less money were fantastic in my opinion, and that all happens because he's willing to be selfless and take the pay cut.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're talking off the court stuff, he was captured by a random gym goer in Houston, like just working out at like 10:30 at night. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see from you at 32. Oh, hey,
he wants to win. And
coming right back, boys. Hold on, don't forget about me. That's what I want to see out of. That's what. Oh, geez, my camera died. That's what I want to see out of James Harden. Be working out so much and be working on the part of your game that we question so much that you're captured by some random dude in some random gym at 10.
One other thing off the court, him and Maxey have been working out a lot together. I'm sorry, Josh. Josh, take it. If you were going to say it, I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss that.
No,
Go
man.
And Josh,
Yeah, no.
and enter Josh.
Yeah. This is just crazy, guys, because I texted you guys in an outrage when the Sixers traded for DeAnthony Melton, just because I was like, what do we think this does anything? Just assuming Harden was going to opt in and it was going to be the same old, same old. And now it does. Like, now everything's starting to make sense. Now I'm starting to put the pieces together, and it's all, Max, like you were saying about Harden, because of this deal. Another thing about this Harden deal that just kind of gets me going, kind of like makes me sit up in my seat a little bit, is the fact that he has the player option in there. And to me, that's saying a guy who we are calling cooked is sort of betting on himself a little bit, saying like, no, I'm going to show them. And you know what? Look, if it works out, I'll opt in, we'll have a good time and I'll be the same. Or I'm going to turn the clock back and get a max deal somewhere, being the James Harden that people knew and loved. And look, sign me up for that. I think this deal is really just, it's going to work out, I think. And it's going to be better than last year. And I think, Max, what did you say at the start? Like, oh, I'm ready to buy into the Sixers.
I am. I'm ready to buy into the Sixers. They had a great offseason.
And I hate to say it, because I feel like, Max, what is this, my third Sixer season on this show? I feel like I've done this 2 times already, man.
Yep.
And it's very hard to do it again. But you go through the stages of grief with this team. You really do. Yeah. And at the end, you always end up at the same place. You're ready to go. You're ready to get hurt again. And that's exactly how I'm feeling with this Harden deal. Because look at the Warriors, right, this year. And obviously the Sixers aren't the Warriors. But I don't think the Warriors – I think we can all agree the Warriors didn't perform so well in these playoffs, like where they absolutely deserved it.
Yeah, they don't feel unbeatable. This Warriors team did not feel unbeatable.
And a big part, I think, of why the Warriors won the championship is simply because that's a group that's been together for 10 years. Look at the Nets and how they didn't work out. Look at all these teams where you try to piece them together. For me, I think a big part of the Sixers season next year is them figuring themselves out. And I think if you give them 82 or 81 games to do that, it's going to happen. Like, I don't even think Tyrese Maxey knew who Tyrese Maxey was towards the end of that season last year. This team now has a whole season to figure out who they are, what they can do, where their roles are. Like, nobody really knew. Like, I don't even think Harden knew exactly his role last season. I feel a refreshed optimism, and it all kind of comes back to Harden taking that pay cut.
So I want to ask you this, and our last question we got for the Sixers and 60 in our second half is your biggest takeaway from the offseason. I kind of want to phrase that more as like, are the Sixers done? Because there's a little bit of room left, and
so happy you asked this, Banner.
This team feels like, if I'm looking at this roster, this team feels like one scorer and a backup big away.
Oh, Banner, come to me, man. I'm begging.
I was going to turn it right back around.
I'm working on this all day.
To me, it's like either Shake Milton has to be that scorer, or you have to go get Eric Gordon, and we're betting on Paul Reed. So, Josh, get out the mud and talk to me.
All right. So, first of all, a name that I haven't seen anything. I tried to Google it and still have no answers. What's up with Hassan Whiteside? Can the Sixers sign Hassan Whiteside today if we want? Yes or no?
I don't think so.
That's an insane question. He was on the Jazz last year.
Dude, like, I was Googling this today and couldn't figure it out. Like, a good 10 minutes of Google, and I couldn't find, like, it seems like he's a free agent.
I thought he was still under contract.
I feel like he has one more year. I feel like he signed a 2-year deal with Utah before this past
even
year.
If that is the case, it ties back to what I'm about to say. Because, Max, I've been trying to figure out a way to get our white whale on this team, Jordan Clarkson.
Oh, okay. Yes. Talk to me. Talk to me.
All right. So I put it into the old trade machine today just for the you got to put in the trade machine for finance reasons, and it did take. And it's going to sound pretty yucky. The Sixers are sending Paul Reed, George Niang, and Furkan Korkmaz over with one other player. Those are all the contract matches. Matisse Thybulle. Matisse Thybulle is the main part of that trade. You send those 3 other guys just to make the contracts work, and you get Jordan Clarkson, maybe Hassan Whiteside back. My original deal there was just for Jordan Clarkson because I thought Hassan Whiteside is a free agent, but I'm not totally sure. It's a mess. But regardless, the trade package centered around Matisse Thybulle. The Jazz have like 4 point guards who are pretty good. You send over because this team does not need George Niang. This team does not need Furkan Korkmaz, and they're getting $4 or $5 million a year.
My only thing is that Niang just came from Utah, and
right.
I don't know how exactly that will work. And it also, So was that first trade 4 for 2? Was that for Clarkson and Whiteside?
4 for 2.
What?
Okay,
No,
4 for 2 makes a little. I was gonna say if it's 4 for 1, I don't see a world where that ever happens because why would you trade for guys that you're just gonna have to inevitably cut for roster room? But if it's 4 for 2, I think that's maybe not the like. It's definitely I feel like a little wishful for Sixers fans, but
those packages just seemed like too good to be true. Like
exactly.
To me, they seem like a Utah team that they only do those if they're blowing it up. Like Spida has to be gone.
But that's kind of what I was thinking. Where it's kind of a year where it's like, all right, Donovan Mitchell, you got your wish. We got rid of Gobert, but now you have to deal with it this year, right? Like, because like, what are they really supposed to do?
It's actually not a bad.
I mean, that's
actually not a bad premise because they got rid of.
They got 4 firsts for Gobert.
No,
like they have,
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like you have a middling year this year where you kind of take these guys on. You still have Mike Conley, which is $24 million, but like the Sixers can't take on Conley. Clarkson's like 13.
I would not want Conley.
million.
Conley's washed.
I wouldn't want Connolly either.
No,
but Quinn
that's what
Snyder's
I'm
not
saying.
even there. So like there's not even like a system. Like this actually could be a down rebuilding year
Right.
for the Jazz. That's
And
actually
you
a
know,
very good
and the
premise.
Jazz don't have defense. You get Thibault for defense. You got a plethora of guards and shooting. Whatever.
Josh, if when the Sixers get Jordan Clarkson, whenever it is,
Oof.
we're saying it was reported here first. We're clipping
been
this,
reporting for the last
and
year.
we will cease and desist anybody who says they got this scoop before.
Well, so all right, let's play that hypothetical out. Who sits? Tobias is now a 6-man?
No. What?
No, Clarkson is.
Clarkson's a 6-man, 100%.
Oh,
That's
wow. Okay.
The
Wow,
whole-
Clarkson
you're
and Embiid would work fine together. Clarkson and Maxey, I can see. The only one I wouldn't really see is Clarkson and Harden.
Clarkson.
Yeah, that's true. So you're just your white whale is a 6-man, boys.
100%. I
It
mean,
would be Jordan Clarkson. It would be a guy who's a legit 6-man of the year.
it's not.
I think that's the only thing this team genuinely doesn't have is a guy who's a 6-man of the year contender.
We're shooting
I
for
think
the moon, boys.
I think with adding Tucker and adding House, I think that definitely brings the bench to like solid status, and that's assuming.
Oh yeah.
Here's
That's assuming either one or
That's a
both of
great
Paul
bench.
Reed and Bassey are involved next year.
my big thing. My big thing now with the Sixers is like, well, you got Tucker, you got House, and like you got D'Anthony Melton. There's 5 guys now on your
Melton,
bench
obviously.
that I think can play on other teams that you have absolutely no use for. And like I'm trying to unload them all onto one team, which is pretty unrealistic. But I just don't know what to do because you got like Furkan is getting paid $5 million and is probably never going to see the court. Like Danilo House is making what, like 800,000 or something?
It was 2 years for 8, I think, for House was his deal.
To get Clarkson, that screams like a 3-team deal to me because,
right.
like Max said, like I
just
don't
sheer number of
see,
players.
I don't see Niang going back to the Jazz. But
This
like,
is really
there's also the rumors going around that like Ayton to the Pacers is very close. Like I'm not
I
sure
feel like that's all but done.
what's going on.
Yeah, Miles Turner has been on the trade block for like 5 years straight. It feels like.
Right. It's
One team that I don't know. I don't think their finances really make sense for this, but the Lakers. Sorry, I dropped something. The Lakers absolutely love guys like Matisse Thybulle and Niang. Like
You're right.
so are the Clippers.
Who do we get back? Who do we even get back though?
I don't know. The Lakers would probably just throw.
Like,
It would probably just have to be for finance stuff. It would probably just be like cap casualty. if
could
I
you
had to
pry
guess.
Taylor Horton Tucker away from him?
I don't think you can.
That's not a pry. Apparently, that's been the guy they always start trade talks with for everything.
I do that. What
I wouldn't be.
I'll say this: if I'm the
What-
Jazz,
what-
Taylor
what-
Thornton Tucker isn't the worst thing. Like they just lost Royce
Ooh.
O'Neal. They could use a wing.
That's not a bad
That's
idea.
true.
You the Lakers in there too?
Interesting.
Like the Lakers have no perimeter defense. A guy like Thibault would be great on the Lakers.
That's a great point.
Wouldn't be asked to do.
Well, he couldn't play
anything
with Russ.
offensively.
He wouldn't be able to play with Russ. But
Yeah, but it's all like, dude. Like, are we really? Me
I'm with
personally,
you.
we're
I
way
don't
down. We're
consider-
way down the rabbit hole. with
I
this.
don't consider Westbrook a Laker anymore. I consider Kyrie.
Banners, I'm with you. I'm
Yeah,
100% with
like,
you.
it's-
That's fair.
Kyrie's
Yeah, the Lakers
going
just
to
popped
the
to mind because
Lakers.
they have such a desperate need at wing. They have Russ, they have LeBron, who both want to be ball dominant, and Anthony Davis thinks he's a 3, but when they were winning, he wasn't. He was definitely more of like a inside out 4. But
I
that's not
literally
Thomas Bryant to
dropped
be his
weight this offseason if that was a smart move. Like it's Whatever.
I don't even know how to talk about Anthony Davis like at all. Like, how do you even?
I just know that he's comfortably not as good as Joel Embiid, and that's really all.
There you go.
Center's easy. Jokic is the only person I'll hear anything about in terms of being at the same level. Everyone else is just no thanks.
You guys remember the days of the Twin Towers? I mean, obviously you do, but like Boogie and Davis, and like how crazy that was to watch.
It was so fun to watch.
Yeah, and now the Timberwolves are trying to do like a
Cat Gobert version.
It's just gonna be so bad. It's gonna be
which is gonna be hilariously awful.
It's a shame.
Winning the 3-point contest this year will that's like a brainworm for Karl Anthony Towns. This guy's going to be averaging 8+ threes a game next year.
Fellas, real quick before we completely off the rails, I do want to say, either of you two like backup center is absolutely like a legit like panic kind of.
That is like that's what I'm kind of freaking out about.
Like do either of you guys have any ideas? Because the only thing I came up with today was Hassan Whiteside or maybe a package for Montrezl Harrell.
I'll be honest with you. I really sold out up until 2 weeks ago when Drummond signed. I really sold out and hoping that we could re-sign him.
That was my best case scenario. Honestly, this is just a hunch. I think Paul Reed's going to be the backup 5. I think there's going to be a lot of small ball.
But why would I believe that with Doc freaking Rivers?
I know. I don't.
I think
there's no logical reason to do it, but it just feels like he's going to be pigeonholed into doing it. Like they saw how poorly the DeAndre Jordan experiment went last year. If you can't get a quality backup big man, like you have, like even if it's not Paul Reed, it has to be Bassey. Bassey and Paul Reed are like you see a guy like Jordan Poole come up from the G League last year, and like he was a solid contributor to a title winning team. There's no reason that Bassey and or Paul Reed cannot fill the 8 to 10 minutes a game where Embiid doesn't play.
I think we're going to see a Billy Bean Art Howell interaction regarding Paul Reed.
Sorry, Alec Boehm throwing out trying to stretch into second.
Oh no, Boehm just broke his hand.
Oh, he did? Oh, nice. Yeah, he's holding it. Oh, nice. Perfect.
He at least broke a finger.
Let's hope it's just a finger. Anyway, sorry.
I honestly don't know the list of big men out there right now, but that's kind of the
can't be much. There cannot be much. DeAndre Jordan got signed. That's how you know there can't be a lot of people out there. He got signed to the Nuggets.
Might have to start paying attention to these summer league games, fellas.
Dude, think about the rabbit hole we just went down and how much content there is around the NBA just to talk about. It's gorgeous. It's wonderful.
And like most guys just re-signed and there's still all this to talk about. It's crazy.
There's nobody's ever safe. And I think ever since the Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to the Clippers summer, the NBA had been kind of trending in that the players have all the power thing. Ever since that, those back-to-back trades happened, it feels impossible to be safe in the NBA unless you're like an unquestionably top 5 player and you're $200 committed, $200 million committed to your team that you're currently on. Anybody else can be traded. Not even, like Kevin Durant, 4 years, $120 million left. Yeah. He got put on the trade block. It's insane. It's genuinely insane to me. So let's move on because you're right. The rabbit hole is deep.
It's deep and it's tough to climb out of. Do we have what you want to do time for top 5?
If you guys want to bang it out real quick, I have my 5.
So phrase this to me because the script and the text messages are phrased different. Are we doing what top 5 are we doing of summer? What?
Of summer, just the top 5 summer things. Like
it can broad.
That's what I mean. Open interpretation, things that you associate with summer, and maybe not summer alone, but things that you associate with summer. Like for example, taking a vacation.
Let's jump into it. Give me your 5. Give me your time.
Okay.
I have 3.
Yeah, I got my 2 back. So let's just rattle them off.
Okay.
Rattle. Go 5 to 1. Go 5 to 1. 1 being last.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5. I think Josh might have this one higher than me, but banners, we're older now. Number 5, being done school for a couple of months. You don't have that luxury when you're in the working world, but man, it is awesome just having a couple months off of school. Number 4, inspired by today's date, the free Slurpee day at 7-Eleven.
I'm going after this.
It only happens one day a year, and it's in the summer. 3rd is also a day related. 4th of July. Hasn't been a lot of America to celebrate lately, but 4th of July is for me personally, it's just it's always the holiday of the summer. By Labor Day, I'm usually kind of tuckered out and I just want to be left alone, and football season's around the corner. So that's it for me. I'll stick with this. Number 2, day drinking. You can't do it in the winter. You can't do it in the spring when it's 50 and breezy and can rain anytime. You can, but it's just not the same. Like for me, day drinking is a summer thing. Like it hits differently. It hits differently. And then last one, this is maybe a little geographically specific, but the beach, just the beach in general, being able to go whenever you want. You know, I'm sure at this point we've all stayed at a friend's beach house or something, or in a hotel for, you know, one day or for a weekend or for a week or 2 weeks. Like the beach is, you know, there's beaches for everybody, whether you're Italian, you're Irish, you're Jewish, whatever, you know, whatever you are. If you're a beach person, there is a crew for you. There's like a beach town that's just full of your kind of people. And obviously people who live in like Indiana and Iowa and Kentucky, they don't have this luxury. But, you know, having the Jersey Shore an hour to 2 hours away, depending on where you want to go, it's the holy grail of the summer for me, being able to go for whatever length you want.
I got a gripe to pick with the beach. Like I do enjoy the beach. My gripe is just that I'm the one kid who grew up in the Philadelphia area who either his family did not have a beach house or doesn't have a close friend who has a beach house. Like I tried to hang out with like 8 different people this last week, and everyone I knew was down the shore, and I was like, oh, all right, thanks.
Just gotta invite yourself, I guess.
Yeah. All right. My top 5 digits. So you went more specific. Big fan of yours. I went a little bit more broad. So top 5. Number 5 for me, it's like the anti-summer activity. It's that lazy summer, rainy day movie. I like because every day it's hot, something's happening. Love myself a good rainy movie. Number 4, water ice in general.
I love that.
Love water ice. Like I think I took it for granted more as a kid because I would like eat it all the time. And now it's just like, oh man, water ice is really good. By the way, girlfriend who lived in New Jersey didn't know what water ice was when I met her. She's like, what? Italian ice? I was like, oh my God.
Not the same.
Number 3, playing sports in general. Golf, basketball, tennis. Anytime I get to play a sport, the endorphins are so high. I've been balling. I haven't golfed yet, but mini golf, love it. Number 2, plain and simple, enjoying a day at the yard, going to the Phillies game, man. A nice summer. I
have actually caring about baseball as one of my honorable mentions.
Yes, and I'm talking about like you get one of those games where it's like 83, and then the sun goes down, and it's really you get
crispy and then you cool off. You roast a little bit, yeah.
And number 1, Max, I mean, it was your number 2. And I phrased mine differently. A cold one on a hot day. It's just, there's really nothing better than it. 4th of July, that's all I did this weekend. Like me and my girlfriend, we literally walked like pretty much from here to like the riverfront, like pretty much like a lot of walking, just a lot of booze. It's just,
it's burning the calories as they come in.
Life's just good, man. It's so simple. That's my number 1. Banners, take it away.
So my number 5 is going to be, it is 7:48 and the sun is not on, it's not even on the second half of setting. Like the extra amount of daylight. Like I've been constantly surprised talking to my girlfriend, like looking over at like 8:15, 8:20, and it's not completely dark out yet. Like that's energy, dude. That's juice. Like I need that juices in my life. Number 4, the first day of summer, Rita's. So the water ice, the day it comes back.
So we all got a cold, sweet treat on our top 5. That's good.
That's something else, man. I have 2, and I'll get to it. The act of swimming is number 3, and it's something, Josh, that you mentioned. It's something I took for granted when I was younger because like I used to swim so much, and now it's like I counted. I swam 3 times last year. That's it. Wow. You know what I mean? So it's like it's just the act of it's different, man. It feels great. Number 2 is outside shows, like music in general, like outdoor concerts, or even just the simple act of like driving with the windows down and just music blasting. You know what I mean? There's something different about just like loud music outside in the summer. Mm-hmm. It's just it's nothing else can compare. And number 1, boys, is just frozen drinks.
Yeah,
in general,
I've been on a frozen drink tear.
Dude, I've been on a frozen drink tear. I'll tell you what, it's something like sneak a couple in between a couple pops. Like there's, I don't know.
They are expensive. They're working man's.
They are expensive. Not yet. I see them and my eyes light up, and then I see $12, and I go, I'll have a light beer, please.
I'll have $5 Bud Light. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I totally
my girlfriend and I were at Liberty Point, the new spot right on the river.
I went there Memorial Day weekend. It was.
They have like a rotating frozen drink thing, and we were there. And the one was, you remember the Rocket Pops as kids?
Yeah.
they had a drink that was like the bottom was it was citrus liquor
Probably
with
12.
grenadine on the bottom, hard lemonade in the middle, and then blue curacao at top. Dude, it tasted like a freaking rocket pop, and I got loaded. Like it was
like
Memorial Day weekend. They were doing a special for Memorial Day weekend where they were combining their. They had like basically what I got was a cherry limeade daiquiri, which was their two mixed drinks on menus, kind of combined into one. And I mean, yeah, it was a long day. A long day on the docks.
I might have to just, go to the old Liberty Point saying, hey man, I'm about to spend $12 on a frozen drink.
You got to do it at least once. You'll thank us. They hit you like a ton of bricks. I don't know. I know you guys just kind of did I know Banner just did his list more impromptu than me and Josh did. The only other one that I had on my honorable mentions that we didn't hit was just the heat. Like, I hate the cold. I despise the cold so much.
I disagree.
Okay, that's fair. I despise the cold. So when it's hot out, I would just enjoy the fact that it's hot out when I walk outside.
Interesting. Because I'll always I can't the baking heat, I can't do it. It's too much for me, man. Like I've spent too many afternoons playing double headers of baseball, just being upset,
just roasting. Like,
it's just can't be done. I think that counts as our tap out, boys.
Yeah.
Because I got fun. Nothing.
I was going to say the same thing.
I thought about it. I used
real quick. One little thing here. When I was walking around, I went into Rivers Casino for the first time. And I walked in, I walked around, and I walked right out. I said, no way. I am
not
going
today.
To lose my money like crazy. Not today.
Not today.
Someone's got to teach me how to gamble because I am curious, but I was like, I'm going to lose money if I try to do anything. I'm out.
Good on you for being a responsible gambler. Good on you.
I can lose like 8 hours with you at a blackjack table if you want.
We'll have to do a show casino trip soon. It's been pre-COVID since I've been in a casino for live.
I'm there during the football season. Every Sunday I'm there with Inside the Birds. So
that's true. Follow Inside the Birds on all socials.
You won't.
It's almost that time of year.
Yeah, that's us tapping out. We just gave you our top 5 things for summer, sports related or non. But what you got to do is, if you didn't catch us live, you got to follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Anchor, Spotify, Apple, anywhere in between. We'll be back next week, and with how things are going, we'll probably just be talking to you about some Phillies baseball. Hopefully, we'll be talking to you about some series wins again over those dreaded fish from Miami. We'll see you then, all right? Have a good one. We are brought to you by My New Philly, where something's always new.
And
everything's always Philly.
Always Philly.
Have a good one, Philly. We'll see you next week.
Let's go, Phils, up 1-0.
Let's go.